Morning, Pearsall Family Church. It's Wednesday, April 28th. Let's go ahead and start with a prayer. God, we pray that as we focus on your faithfulness, that you would give us your peace and your patience to see your story work out in our lives. I want to speak about the faithfulness of God. And about the faithfulness of God doesn't always look like what we think it should look like. It's part of my testimony. At least the past 5 years of it anyways. I spent 5 years literally working on a pig farm. But it never felt like home. It always felt like just something I was doing for a short while, if that makes sense. I wasn't happy at work, and it wasn't the work per se. It was just that it didn't feel like it was what I wanted to do. The work was fine, and some of the people I worked with were pretty good. But I was constantly wanting another job. Dozens of days I would mentally just quit and say that I was done. But God would let me have my little hissy fit, and 20 minutes later I would feel this not yet answer. And I wrestled and I argued with God, and I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to be as argumentative with God as I was. But I was. And the only answer I ever got was not yet, and wait. One point in the job, I worked 100 days straight without a day off. I worked on Christmas Day, Thanksgiving Day, New Year's Day. There were days I'd go to work right after leaving church on Sunday and be there the rest of the day, just come home, have supper, and crash. Shoveled guts, I moved pig poop by the truckload, all the while hearing God say, not yet. I always thought of that prodigal son feeding the pigs and just wanting to go somewhere that felt like home, but not yet. There was a day at the end of December that I wanted to quit. Again, I got in trouble for not picking up a third position in the production line. And I was done. I finished what I needed to get done. I sat down on a bench outside and I just felt defeated. Because I'm not a quitter. I didn't want to quit just to quit. But I didn't feel like it was where I was supposed to be. I talked to God and told him I just couldn't do it anymore, and to be honest, I figured he would give me that few minutes to calm down and send me back to work with that whole not yet answer. But as soon as I told God that I was done, I just felt a peace come over me. For the first time, that was the first time I'd ever felt peace after that, not just go back to work. 5 years of wanting to quit, and finally God released me. I still had to go back to work though. Right? God had given me an answer, but my kids needed to eat, and bills had to still be paid, so I went back to work. Now, granted, for 5 years, I've had pastors praying for me. I've had different people praying for me. I've been prayed over probably a dozen times about my job and wanting a new job and needing a different job and things that would allow me to do things and all this stuff. 5 years went by. And one day, just having a bad day, God released me from it. So I started fasting the next morning after God released me. Figured if God's sending me on a journey, well, let's get this over with. 5 years is long enough. Let's get this done with. I started the job applying process, and if anybody who's applied for a job recently knows, you fill out 10, 15, 20 applications to hear back from just one place. So I did exactly that. I filled out 20 plus applications. I heard back from one company, from AEP. And I went in and did their beginning testing, and their testing takes a long time to get through there. I finally got a call from another job, the job I'm at now. They just wanted a simple interview. That's all they wanted. They didn't look to see my resume. They didn't want anything. They just wanted to meet me first. So I met them after work. He said I didn't have to be cleaned up. Just came in dirty and tired after work one day. The next morning, officially, they offered me a job, and AEP removed their offer. That's on the 21st day of fasting. Now, I don't know about some of you guys, but numbers and stuff in the Bible are real important. And so to be fasting for 21 days and then on the 21st day get a job application or a job offer, like an official offer, not an invitation to apply or whatever. But on the 21st day, I got a job offer. And it just felt like everything was lining up. After 5 years, and on the 21st day of fasting, God answered my prayers. But God didn't just answer them on the 21st day. He didn't just wake up on that 21st day and decide to answer my prayers. I believe he had answered them 5 years ago. He answered them as soon as I prayed them. But I just had to walk down the road of time to get to his answer. He was faithful 3 years ago. He was faithful 4.5 years ago. I'm just saying that he is faithful and true to answer my prayer. He wasn't ignoring me for 5 years. He was working all these things into place. My boss didn't even work for this company 5 years ago. The company I now work for barely existed 5 years ago. But you see, he was working all those things together, knowing that I would be ready in time, that for 5 years I would gain skills and confidence to do my current job as well as growing spiritually. What I want you to take away is that God has answered every prayer you have ever prayed. God is faithful to answer every prayer you've ever prayed. Whether that's a yes or a no or a wait or whatever, God has answered every prayer you've ever prayed. You just may have to wait to see it. It may take you 5 days, 5 months, 5 years, or 5 decades to see that answer with your own eyes, but God is faithful. I want to leave you with the song. It just kind of came out. It says, "Wait on You," the Elevation Worship in Maverick City. I think it's interesting because it's like 12 and a half minutes long, and by the 10th time you've listened to it, you're just waiting for it to be done. But it talks about there's power in waiting on God's faithfulness. There's strength in waiting on God. But most of all, there's always the love of God waiting for you, because God is faithful to complete the works he started.